My name is Christine Alfery. I'm an artist from northern Wisconsin, and I'm going to share this work with you that I call Out on a Limb. It's 73 by 52. It's a huge piece. It's done on canvas. To get a comparison as to just how big this piece actually is, it's on an 8-foot by 8-foot wall. This stool down here is 24 inches. I'm 60 inches. I worked on it flat on my tables, also worked on it on my walls, hanging up, and then I stretched it when it was all done. The piece was a completely different piece when it started, and I was just going to add just a little bit to it because it seemed to work out okay. But whenever I do that, I always ended up adding a whole bunch. So it started out with this wonderful blue watercolor wash coming down all the way across here. It was a combination of some reds and some yellows and this blue. You can still see traces of it underneath the paint that I put over it. And it ended up having several layers on it with texture underneath as I started working out the areas and the composition that I wanted to appear. Frequently when I paint, I have an idea in mind, but I don't know exactly how it's going to work on the size canvas that I've chosen to work on or the size paper I've chosen to work on. So this one I knew how big it was, and I knew that I wanted a lot of color, a lot of bright color, and I didn't want so much of the white showing. As it turns out, this whole area over here filled with color, in contrast to this white area here, worked out very, very nicely. This area here that is filled with blues and blue greens and yellow blues really is a nice way to pop out this yellow, or this yellow is a nice way to pop out this blue because they're complementary colors. And I'm a very gestural painter, so I draw with my paint and I draw with my paintbrushes. So as I'm working on these pieces and adding layers and layers of paint, texture begins to form. And if you look very, very carefully, you can see what happens with the texture. I happen to have a whole bunch of white texture under here. I didn't like it, so I took a paper towel and wiped it all off. And when it dried, there's lots of drying in between, I put a blue wash layer over it. I just washed it like this and put blue all over it. And it brought out all these little things in here which were just marvelous. Loved it. Here I had a lot of white paint. You can see my fingers going through it here. Here I painted with my fingers to bring out this wonderful transparent teal. Here I allowed all the texture and the rough edges to show. Underneath here you can see a rhythm of the water that I put on there, and then I decided I didn't like it. And then when I put more color on top of it, I started pulling out the top part of the edges of this rhythm mark, and I love that. So I let it show through. You can see how I wiped some of the paint off of it. And here you can see how I was drawing with my paint here, and I came with a dry brush and brought out the top layer here, so it's highlighted with white right there. It has all my familiar marks in it. It has my round wheels that represent movement right here, down here. It has my ladder. So for me, I imagine this woman right here, it's a woman, it's a figure, climbed up this ladder and either is reaching for these spheres, these golden spheres, or she's releasing them. And it just is such a freeing feeling. And when I finished painting it and putting a lot of the detail in, I hadn't put the yellow in yet. And I thought, oh, I'd put this in. And I thought, oh, I need to bring something. We're bringing my viewers up this ladder But what are we going to do here with all this white space? Because you don't want white space, you want a color. And I came in and drew very gesturally with my paint the yellow. And it turned out great because I have this wonderful contrast right there. And I'm very excited about this piece. I'm very excited about the message it represents. You've got all this action right here, all this movement going on right here. And then you have someone who's climbed this ladder and she's out on a limb. She's either energized by everything that's going on here, or she releases something into a peaceful zone. It can be any story you want. Look for videos as I do new works, and if you need a video done of a piece that I've already painted and haven't videotaped it yet, just email me at Christine@ChristineAlfery.com.